Hi, I'm Tori Hagaman. Welcome to my studio. One of my sweetest subscribers recently asked if I would do a painting tutorial on painting baskets. I had shown recently this painting that I had just done, and I mentioned in that video that I'd also recently done a really large basket that I was pleased with, and this is it. And while this tutorial is not going to be for the beginner artist, it's not as complicated as this looks either. I'd like to take some of the mystery out of painting baskets, help you to see how to think about it, how to get your drawing in. I'll give you some of my favorite color combinations that I use, and I'll let you see me paint part of a basket. I probably won't try to record all of it because we could be here all day, but I'll get into it enough where you can see the brushes and hear my thoughts about the decisions that I'm making, and I would love for you to follow along. I'll share with you the supplies that I'm using so you can get your things together and hopefully paint this one with me. Stay tuned. I have painted 3 baskets in my life. 2 of them have been in the last few months, but this is one that I did many years ago, and it's this little basket. There are a lot of different styles of baskets, different ways that they're woven, but all the baskets that I've painted, the baskets that I personally own, and the basket that we're going to paint today all have these same basic components to them. They all have a handle, they have a top rim, a bottom, and then they have these splines, these vertical pieces, and then things are woven through the vertical pieces. So you might be able to do this by hand. You might be able to eyeball it. I would definitely recommend you have a basket or a photograph to go by, because if you get off a little bit, it can get really wonky. In the painting that we're going to do today, I used a projector, and I did it for 2 reasons. Mainly because it's a larger basket, and these splines are not just straight up and down lines that you would put paint on a wall. They actually are curving from right to left, and they're also curving slightly from top to bottom if the basket has any roundness to it at all. So getting those in correctly can be kind of tricky, and then as you're weaving the pieces through with your paint, if you don't have a dot or something to go by, that can start going downhill or uphill, and once that one line gets off, it'll be off the rest of the basket. So it's pretty easy for it to get wonky. So that's why I chose to use a projector for our project. The other reason I love to use a projector is that it enables me, I like my objects to go off the canvas when possible. And with the projector, I can move that projector in and out. I can get the placement exactly the way I want it. I can see what it would look like moving off the edge of the canvas. So for those 2 reasons, I did use a projector for our painting today. If you've never used a projector before, this one is discontinued, but I think I got it through Jerry's Artorama or DickBlick. But I have it on a rolling cart, which is where I keep my palette next to my canvas, and so I can move it forward and backward in front of the canvas, and I can move it from side to side for placement. So it's perfect for that application. Here's the photograph reference that we're going to be using today. This is from Pexels, which is a free reference site. It's great for artists. And I'm going to put a link in the description box below to this photograph. Feel free to download it. You can eyeball it, you can trace it, you can use a projector, whatever you need to do to get your drawing in. I'm using a 14 by 18 canvas. It's actually an old painting that wasn't very happy that I've painted over it. I love to resurrect old paintings. I used a watercolor pencil in green to get my sketch in from the projector. I think this could also look nice on a square canvas, so don't feel like you have to have the same size that I'm using. You can even do this if you've got a multimedia pad. You can even try it on that to practice before you actually jump onto a canvas. Hey, if you're enjoying this content, a quick thumbs up and subscribe sure would help. Thank you. Although the basket I'm going to be painting today is going to be darker, if you like a lighter tone, the painting that you're seeing there, I use raw sienna, burnt sienna, and Naples yellow primarily, probably a little bit of white in there as well. And feel free to use that color palette. The palette that I use for this painting, actually I did that dark one in oils, and I'm going to be using acrylics today. But I would use, for my darkest colors, black and burnt umber, and then burnt sienna for my middle value. And then I would lighten it with something like yellow oxide or Naples yellow. I would not use white on a dark basket to lighten it, or it would get a little chalky looking. So if you want to get your paints together, we'll get ready to paint. I like to put these stays in first. And when you work on your basket, you may find a way that makes more sense to your brain and it's easier for you to do. But this is what makes more sense to me. I put these stays in first, and then I literally weave in and out using the paint. But just remember that with this stay, for example, you're going to go over it with the first piece, you'll go under it with the next piece, then you'll go over it, then you'll go under. As long as you do that, it's going to work. And if it gets off a little bit, it's not a big deal. It will work. It will look right. So, some people like to start with their darks. Some people like to start with middle values. I usually start my paintings with dark. So, for example, I would use my burnt umber, and I would just put that dark in every place I'm seeing dark, and that might be the easiest way to do it. I am using a small little flat brush, and I've been looking at different brushes that I have. It depends on the basket you're doing and the size of it. What I was looking for in a brush is something that was wide enough to cover the wide parts, but that was thin enough that I could turn it and go down with it. So I'm going to try this little flat brush. You know, I can always go do something else. I'm just going to put in some of these darkest darks where I'm seeing them. If you're doing this in acrylics, it's really easy, and you can always go back over things. If you're doing it with oils, you'll have to be a little more thoughtful. But basically, I want to do this by putting in the stays first. And I'm going to use, so I've got my burnt umber and black. I've got my burnt sienna, which is this reddish brown. I've got, what is that? That is raw sienna, and this is yellow oxide. So you notice I don't have any white on this. This is how I'm going to be lightening my basket. But I'm going to start with the burnt sienna just because it is the middle value, and you'll notice that's fairly transparent. But I'm going to go ahead and just put these stays in, and you can put the stay just in between, or you can do it all the way down. For me, it's just easier. Go ahead and just put it all the way down. You see how transparent that looks. You notice there's a slight curve to this. Again, it's going to depend on the type of basket that you're doing, but the stays are not going to be even going across because the basket has some dimension and does go around a corner. It's going to have to curve a little bit. This is something you can always go back and work on, but for me, it's just, this is sort of my plumb line. Everything's going to hang on these, so if you don't get these in right to begin with, and you can make them wider or thinner. You can look at your basket. In this particular basket, the stays are very thin, but if you don't like that, you can do them thicker. I might thicken mine up a little bit just because, well, one, to get another coat, but also because I think it's a little easier to work around. So I've got a paper towel here. I just wet it, wipe that back off, do it again. You're going to be filling in all this space, so if you And then we've got a lot of weaving down here at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to put this medium base in at the bottom. And then we'll go in and add some darks and lights to that. Up here at the top, this is really lit up. I might go ahead and put some of my burnt sienna, and I'm going to add a little of the yellow oxide. Let's just see how that looks. It's mighty thin, isn't it? I'm going to take now just some, let's wipe that back off. I'm going to take some burnt sienna with the yellow oxide. I think that's better. Gets us some real lights right in there. Okay. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start weaving in and out. And you can follow your photograph exactly. For me, it's just better. Well, let me just show you how I do it. So I'm going to take this basket in our example is gray, but I'm obviously not doing gray. I'm doing the brown. So I'm going to take our burnt sienna and a touch of the brown. And I'm going to go over that stay. And I'm going to stop it at that stay. The next one is going to go, so let me do that again, over. So it's having trouble covering up that line that's beneath, so that would have been a reason not to put that line. This might be a place where you need to use just enough white to give some opacity to your paint. Let me try that after saying we definitely are not using white. Let me go get that. Okay, let me try this again. So I intentionally, in my videos, I don't cut out, like I would consider that a mistake. Oh, that's not very professional looking. That doesn't look good. Instead of just cutting it out and starting over so you never have that experience, I'm going to show you how I fix that, because you're going to run into that kind of problem for what do I do when something is too transparent. So I'm going to take the tiniest amount of titanium white. This is a heavy body. And I'm going to put this brown in with it. See how chalky it makes it? It's just not as rich. We'll put that red back in, but let's see if we can get better coverage. Yes. But it's lost some of the richness. I'm still seeing that red over top. Here's another way you can fix that, which I don't really want to do because I just think it's going to be so time consuming, is to just take pure white, like that'll go under, this will go over, and just block that out. That might be what I have to do. That's going to go under, that'll go over, under, over. So, well, maybe it won't take that long. So I apologize, but that's how I would fix that. I hope this makes sense. I hope I haven't confused you right off the bat. So in light of this, I did not have this problem over. I did not have this problem when I was dealing with the lighter basket, and I did not have this problem when I was working in oils. So I think because I'm working in acrylics and with these particular colors, that's what I'm running into. But that's how I would handle it. I'm going to let that dry for just a second. You can also get a hair dryer out if you're working with acrylics. Let that dry and we will give that a go again. I really want to keep the basket color rich without putting the white in it. So for me, that's a better option, just to take a minute to do that. So I'm going to go back into my burnt umber with a touch of the burnt sienna. So I've got a dark reddish brown. And let's just, I'm going to try that one more time. This one goes under. This one goes over. Notice that this line is not going straight. Notice that there is a slight curve. Just like if you were drawing a glass, the top of it looks kind of straight at the center, but as it gets to the edge of the glass, it has a little bit of a curve. This is going to be the same thing. And these are going to vary a little bit. That's okay. I like having some variety in my baskets. I don't like them to look like they're machine made. I want them to look. So we've gone over. This one we're going under, so we stop short of that. This one we go over. I'll stop here. That one, the color was not as dark. Let's do that again. Going under and over. So one thing we can do to make these splines look a little different is we can make them a lot darker or a lot lighter. Or we can darken up the weave. So let's darken up the weave and see if that helps. All right, let's do the next line. I'm going to use a little more of the burnt umber and a little less of the burnt sienna. So this one we're going over. And we stop it at the adjoining spline because we're going under that. We're going under that one and over this one. Under, over. It really is that simple. Then, you know, you can go back and tweak these, tweak the color. And the more curved you make this line, the more in and out the basket's going to look. I'll show you on the bigger basket what I mean. But you can get the basket to look very smooth and even, or you can get it to look really jagged and irregular. But it helps me to start a line and then move down and move up so that I'm, you know, this one, the weave has gone under this, the next one it's gone over, the next one it will go under. That's the main thing you've got to remember to get this to look right. And then we're going to go back in and just put in some darks in there. Under, over. And you'll notice my brush mark went up a little bit, so that's kind of uneven. You can wipe that off or just leave it. Again, I don't mind. I like kind of rustic baskets, so I don't mind them looking uneven. Over. I think that helped painting those spots a lot. So this is probably going to take a second coat. It's so transparent, but that's okay. This one we're going to do under. But you can see already how it's starting to look like a basket. And it's really not that hard. You just have to kind of think about it. I might speed this part up for you. Okay, this part of the basket is in shade, so I'm not even looking at my photograph. I'm thinking this is woven, so I'm just going to start kind of weaving a few crosshatch places in between. I'm just kind of eyeballing that. And again, we're going to fine tune all this, but right now down at the bottom, I'm going to take my brown and a tiny touch of black. Put way too much black in there, it doesn't take much. maybe a little too dark, but. And again, that's pretty rough. But the contrast is what really makes it look woven and lets you see some things are sticking out and some things are recessed. So it's important to get the darks dark enough. So let me let you see. So I have my brown and red combination that I've been using for the weave, and I've just added a little bit of black. That was too much black. I've pulled it out. You can just kind of experiment with that. But I'm going to go in, I'm going to use the edge of my brush and just fill in those spaces. I tell you, that big painting that I did, I painted it on white, and there were like 1,000 little white dots, and you see even with this. So I would recommend, even if you're going to do a basket, maybe do a wash of burnt sienna over it so that you don't end up with all these tiny spots that you're going to have to deal with. So this is where you might have to go in and kind of finesse a little bit, fill things in. And I'm also going to go back and put some highlights on the parts that are woven. So that's a way, you know, I like, if you've seen many of my tutorials, I tend to exaggerate the lights and the darks. That's just me. You may not like things that exaggerated. I'm gonna let you kind of get back from this so you can see what's happening. Sorry for the angle, but it's starting to come together. So you can tell I'm doing this pretty quickly. I'm not being real precise with it. If you were doing it in oils, you'd get better coverage. And again, part of the problem is because I'm not using any white mixed in, which is where you get that good coverage. But I like the rich dark color. So that's just you do you. I gave you at the beginning of the video colors I would use when I did that light basket, but you make it the same way, just with lighter colors. And of course with that lighter basket with the whites mixed in, I just got much better coverage. So look at your photograph, but normally your basket is going to be darker at the bottom than it is at the top. And you're going to have one side or the other that's lighter. In our photograph, this side is much lighter than this. So as I go back and tweak this, I'll probably darken this side up, darken the darks up. So let me show you what that could look like. So I'm just putting it in a little pure black. And I'm going to touch a few places with the pure black. Okay, here on this left side, where it's lighter, I've gone back to the burnt umber, no black in it. I started to put in the twisted handle that's shown in our photograph, and tried as I might, I just couldn't get happy with it. I didn't like it. And so I ended up just changing it to a straight handle like the other big basket I had done. And it was just a great reminder that, you know, if something doesn't look good, try to fix it. If you can't get it fixed to where you like it, just paint over it. Try something else, but don't leave something in the middle of your painting that's not right. Okay, let me show you what I decided to do where I felt like there was too much black. I've taken this little round brush and I'm using just the burnt sienna, that kind of brownish red. And I'm just adding, you can see here I've added an extra line. I'm not being careful about it. It's kind of irregular. It's not going to be the predominant weave. It's going to be kind of a secondary, a thinner, smaller but it's filling in that dark space, so it just looks like there's more woven space going on. I'm going to kind of reinforce that one that was already there, the big one that was already there. So I'm liking that much better. I think that reads better. I'm going to darken it up just a little bit up here. But you just get the feeling there's a little more going on back there. I think that's much nicer. And I've gone back over some of these places a few times just to kind of reinforce the color, just to kind of fill that in. I am really not worried about it not being precise looking. I think that's kind of the beauty of it. There are a couple of these where I've gotten off, where I've zigged and should have zagged, but that's okay. I'm going to add a little light down into the bottom of this basket so it looks a little more woven. And I can always clean up these edges with grass and whatever else I'm going to put in this painting. But I'm much happier. And I said at first I wasn't going to use any white, but I did end up adding a little bit of white on this edge just to get this a little lighter and a little brighter. So I take that back just to get it to show a little more. And that little touch of white's really showing up, maybe more than it needs. And just kind of fill this in wherever you want. You can tell I'm not being real precise about it. But I think that looks a lot better. And I really kind of like it better also because I think it looks more hand woven because it is a little wonky. Again, you'll have to touch up your little white spots, but let me let you get back and see what we've got. You notice I've straightened out that handle a lot. It's very uneven, but I didn't want to make it any wider, so as I add flowers and greenery, I'll correct that unevenness. But yeah, pretty easy to do. So here you have our rustic little basket. I've just added some grass at the bottom and just started to put in some loose flowers. I haven't finished it, but I just wanted to give you a feel for what can be accomplished in a relatively short period of time. And of course, if you wanted a basket that was finer and more precise, you can spend a little more time working on it and being more precise with your marks. But personally, I love that rustic, chunky kind of basket. It's got a lot of personality to it. Hey, if you've enjoyed this video, sure would appreciate a thumbs up, and do check out my website. I've got all kinds of great courses and tutorials. If you're an absolute beginner, I've got a great course for you. I've got a course on how to add color to anything that you're painting. I've got a wonderful course on painting trees, and I've got another one on painting skies. And there's a lot out there for you, and as well as all the free things that are on my YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. I don't take your time lightly. Till next time, God bless.